So, hey, well, we're here again. Fifth, I think we're on the fifth episode now. I keep forgetting
Yeah,
yeah. So that it's working out pretty good. I saw like some of your stories. You had your kid on your back, and what were you doing there?
yeah. No, just we actually went like not even 2 miles from our house, and there's a trail that you can take. It's actually a much longer trail that goes to a waterfall. That
Mm.
what actually brought my attention to it was somebody just got rescued off that trail
So
like two
you
weeks ago.
decided to go ahead and try it out.
Yeah, but there's a spot where you can actually make it a loop. So I went to the spot and looped back around. But apparently, if I would have took it much further, like it gets way more difficult and
Mhm.
crazy. So yeah,
Yeah.
perfect little hiking day that we had there.
Yeah, it looked beautiful in there. You weren't kidding when you said that every time, like, it's a small island, but every time I see you, you're like in a new place, like a new cool
Yeah,
place.
it's like obviously there's the front page stuff
Right.
um, with Hawaii, but yeah, like I was just searching near me because I didn't want to go too far.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's this awesome trail, well cut out, labeled, not somewhere you get lost. And yeah, had a great time.
Yeah. How did your boy like it? He seemed like he liked
Oh
it a lot.
yeah, so no, he just likes being outside. So yeah, like we're cooped up inside. He's going crazy.
Yeah.
As soon as you put him out, like whether we're in a park, an open field, or hiking, he'll either he'll either just kind of just be quiet and just kind of like observe everything, just like this, or,
Mm.
or he'll or like he starts pointing stuff out that he sees and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's great.
It's such like you're giving him such a different experience than like what most people or most kids are getting nowadays because we live in such a like closed indoor society, and it's becoming more and more indoor. Less kids are doing things out of the house, like outside. So it's like he's getting completely a different experience.
Yeah, we want to keep that, especially like when he's able to start hiking on his own. Like yeah, we take a little half a mile hike and let him,
Yeah.
walk it out. Yeah, that's the goal. If we have to move with Pepsi or wherever, hopefully, there's at least outdoor recreation wherever we go.
Right, right. And then he can start like when he starts walking trails and stuff, he can do like lunges across the trail too. That
Yep,
grow
yep,
them legs.
yeah. Hey, there's more than one way to leg train, right? There's more than one way. Oh
uh,
yeah,
that's funny. We're going to talk about you brought up this subject, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was forearms and calves, right? That's what we were
yeah.
considering today.
So someone actually at my job was asking me about it because they were saying how, um, you probably get this a lot. Somebody is, hey, somebody told me that, and and they want you for validation or something. And so he asked me, he's like, hey, somebody told me that it's really no use training your forearms or your calves because they don't change in size. It's pretty much genetic. And I was
Mhm.
like, really? I was like, so I have to disagree. But also it just depends on again, as always, depends on what your goal is too. If your goal is to have very large calves or forearms, um, yeah, then some genetics play into that.
Mhm.
But if we're talking about competition, aesthetics, lines, making your muscles pop, like yeah, man, you need to train both of those. I would actually say that training your forearms well and training your calves well is going to help you with your other lifts,
Yeah.
that you probably wouldn't expect it to help you.
Well, and also like that statement about like it doesn't change much in size, it's genetic, is kind of like a silly statement because everything about you is genetic, like literally everything about you is genetic. So it's like your
Yeah,
biceps are as genetic as like your forearms, as your calves, as your shoulders. Like you're made up of genes from your parents and their parents and their parents. So it's like to say that, oh, well, we don't need to train him because it's mostly genetic. That doesn't even like make any kind of sense.
yeah. I actually wish I thought of that when you asked me too. Yeah, it's like everything's genetic. Like, what do you think your bicep isn't?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I mean, you're given, it's kind of like the way I like to think about it is you're given some raw materials, and then it's kind of, what do you do with those materials? How do you build them up? Um, for me personally, like and here's the other thing. The other question, like I've had like bigger forearms, but the question comes in now, well, was I always going to have bigger forearms, or did I have them because I started training fairly early and I just developed them as I went, along in my, progression of being fit and athletic. So it's like it's hard to say. The earlier, like I would like to say, oh yeah, my forearms are the size they are because primarily like I'm predisposed to having like bigger forearms, but in reality, like I don't know. Same thing with my calves. It's like they tend to be bigger, but I don't know. I kind of noticed them changing when I was wrestling in high school. The funny thing, we did jump ropes a lot of jump ropes, and I've noticed that during that time period, like my calves started to develop. Like there's a lot more development in them, and I have to attribute it to the day in day out, jump roping for like 30, 40 minutes a day. So, you
Oh
know,
wow. Oh,
yeah,
that's serious.
oh, it was intense, boy. Like I like I would, whenever the coach like wouldn't look, I would like kind of not jump rope as much, but it was like it was nonstop, yeah, for like 30 minutes. That I got to tell you, that's as far as like sports go. The grind of like wrestling, it was most intense thing I've ever like experienced. So definitely an
Yeah.
interesting thing. But so what would be like your advice as far as like training, like let's just say forearms, let's start off with forearms. Like do you have any kind of like true trade practices that kind of helped you along with that?
Yeah. So, well, I guess for the forearms are two things. One is you've got to do pull ups, pull downs, and things like that, where you're actually working your forearms a lot more than you might think. In any type of pull down motion, whether you're doing here, wherever your hands may be, you're working the underside of your forearm a lot more than than you might think. And I'm always for free weights before using cables too. So even like burning out and doing things on the assisted pull up is going to be way better than just sitting on the lat pull down machine and saying that you're trying to work your arms while you're working your back.
Right.
So that's the first one, and then the other one obviously is reverse curls. I don't think I ever train arms without doing them. So I don't focus my whole arm workout just on the bicep, the top of the arm, right? I'll always find at least some point, whether with dumbbells or barbell, to flip it over and hit the other side.
Yeah.
And that's just the bodybuilder in me, because I want to even things out, right? If you spend the whole workout just working on your upper arm and your lower arm never gets any love, yeah, yeah, you're not going to grow proportionately. You're not going to develop proportionately. Maybe your biceps getting bigger or tighter, and then you still have this scrawny forearm or forearm with no definition sitting right there.
Yeah, I think a big part of that is also like your grip, right? Like anytime you grip, you're working your forearm. So anything ain't where you can incorporate like where primarily you're using grip strength, it's gonna, put a lot of emphasis on that forearm. So things like it's actually interesting you mentioned reverse curls. I was just doing some recently. I like think yesterday I worked biceps or the day before, and I incorporated reverse curls. And essentially, what you're doing is you're holding on to the bar to a point where if you let go, it's going to fall out, right? So it's like so you're going against the gravity. Then on top of that, you're adding the weight, and the only thing that's holding the bar in your hand is your grip strength. So that grip strength is really what works that forearm. For me, I noticed like big differences in anything like that. I don't know if you used to use that. I don't know what it's called, but it's it would be like a bar or some kind of like stick, and it would have a rope at the end, and then there'd be a weight, and you would use it to just pull to, like kind of pull the
Yep.
weight up, twist it, and then twist it back down. Did you ever get any benefit from that?
I did not. So I definitely know exactly what you're talking about. I think that's it's probably one of those nice old school contraptions that does burn. It does burn your forearms, but not something that I've used, for my training. Yeah, at all. There's also a bit of shoulder work that you're doing when you're using that too.
Right.
Just from keeping the weight stable and up, which is nice. But no, I haven't used that one.
Yeah.
I do use the what is that, the take a barbell, and you can do wrist rollers that way. But yeah, it's not the same as it's not the same as like, oh, by doing wrist rollers or wrist curls that I'm gonna have a forearm the size of my bicep. It's like, no, that's not why you're doing that. That you're getting that tension in the arm, stimulating those muscles, before maybe moving on to a bigger exercise or a bigger lift.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do remember it kind of affecting my shoulders too. Like when I would do it, I would feel it more in my shoulders than I would in my, in my forearms. So what would tend to happen is my
Yeah.
shoulders would give out before my, before my forearms actually did, which I think is a little bit counterproductive. But if it works for you, you can't. I mean, if it works, you can't deny it. But for me, it was just like a nice additive, you know, training
Mhm.
exercise, but it wasn't like a primary one for sure. So yeah, I mean, the forearms are one of those things where it's like a lot of people don't pay attention to them. So, but it does need to be worked, especially if you're lacking there. If you're already kind of lacking there, you really should prioritize, that kind of training.
And I think if you're training a lot with machines and cables, you're missing out on forearm gains that you could have more if you're using more barbell, dumbbell, and body weight movements.
Right.
So that's also part of the reason I spend majority of my workouts using free weights, just to try to get. I think there's more benefits there, stabilizing muscles like your forearms that don't get missed, where you have a machine that's solely designed to take the stress away from your wrist, your forearm, your shoulder, and only work your bicep. That's a great machine, but you miss out on other gains that you could be getting.
Right. And that's kind of, the question, right? Like we can basically do a show just about this one aspect where is isolating the muscle better, or is it better to incorporate like all muscles around that area, So, and I think a big part of what's missing in training today is that most people do not work out with free weights. That's, if you in any gym, unless it's like a hard
Yes.
bodybuilding gym or something like that, the free weight area is the least visited area. Like the machines, you cannot find an open machine, but like free weights there's nobody there.
Yep.
So,
Yep. And as popular as fitness is, and the big as the industry has become, if you walk into a brand new open gym, the first thing they're going to try to show you is their equipment, the
right.
cables, the weighted machines, the fixed movement, plate loaded machines. Yeah. And it's like, those are great, real convenient, real comfortable, but you have more to gain from the discomfort of trying to work a muscle with just a couple weights in your hands.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head where you said it's comfortable, and it does give
Yeah.
you a workout. It gives you just enough where you feel like you've worked the muscle, but it's easy, it's comfortable, and people always gravitate to that. Free weights are not comfortable. Free weights are tough. Free weights, like you said, a lot of stabilizing, muscles are involved. It's your first free weight workout, if you're just brand new going to the gym, is probably not going to be a fun one where you feel accomplished. Like you're going to probably, it's going to take you a little bit, a few
Yeah.
days, weeks to really get in the groove of it. But a machine you can just jump on, and
Right.
I think that's the appeal of them,
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the Smith machine either. That
Yeah.
does not count. The Smith machine does not count. Get
Yeah.
off that Smith machine.
So you're pro Smith or you're against Smith machine?
No, I am definitely against Smith machine.
Against Smith
I think Smith
machines, right?
machine gives you artificial confidence
Mm-hmm.
that when it does come time to move free weight, then you realize you don't have the stabilizers,
Right.
and you probably either hurt yourself or you can't get the weight up, whether legs, shoulders, bench press, shoulder press. All I think, yeah, artificial confidence is what I would say the Smith machine does for you.
Yeah, I would definitely, if you're someone either listening to the show or just you're interested in transitioning from a Smith machine or just machines in general to free weights, I would definitely decide to kind of moderate myself a little bit, be a little bit modest with the
Yeah,
weight. Yeah, because 3 plates on a Smith machine is not the same, like 3 plates on each side is not the same as the same amount of weight like a regular squat. It's gonna feel totally different, and you
right.
can really easily hurt yourself, especially when you go down, think like you said, with artificial confidence. And a lot of things can happen, so.
Yeah. I would say that Smith machines are great. So I will counter myself. They are great, for burning out and pumping in. Like after, like let's say you're doing a shoulder day, you do all dumbbell shoulder press, which
Mhm.
is great. You're gonna be all kinds of tired, all in your shoulders and your delts, and then you go, okay, I'm gonna finish this off, put a 45 on each side of the Smith machine, and I'm gonna pump that because I already know if I try to
Right.
do this on a free weight, my shoulders are done. But I'm gonna
Right.
pump this in, finish it out, go eat something good, and then you're gonna grow that day.
Yeah.
So the Smith machine is a great way to like top off some of the other free weight movements.
Yeah, I primarily use machines in the beginning of a workout just to warm up, and then at the end like that to burn out. Like those are generally the
Yeah.
time I try to leave the meat of my training just strictly to free weights, because I feel like that's really what gives you the growth that people are looking for, and
Hmm.
it's hard to beat it, right? Like, because I mean, people have been doing it for so long, like, and it
Yeah.
works. And now, like, you're kind of seeing, while fitness is big, it's like, and machines are becoming more advanced. They're becoming more advanced not to be harder, but to be easier, So it's like they're trying to
Yeah.
appeal to a bigger crowd, a crowd that's not as focused. The best way I could put it.
Yeah. Yeah. Those we've all seen it, the nice padded machine area with 5, 6 people on their cell phone.
Right,
And
exactly.
they're sitting there, and it looks more like a lazy boy chair than it does a workout machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. You were talking about like we were talking about grip strength. We were talking about incorporating other muscles, like for forearms. Reminds me of something that Dorian Yates said, where I think it was one interview. I forgot who he interviewed with, but he was always a big proponent of grabbing wherever you're the strongest, not wherever you're the weakest. And his mindset on that was that where you're the strongest is where you incorporate more muscle fibers. So for example, like instead of saying like this abstract kind of thing, like to bring it to an example, a pull down, right? Like you grab wherever you feel stronger as opposed to like wherever you feel weaker. So if and where you're stronger is where like you work more of your back, you bring in more muscle fiber. That was his viewpoint. And I do find that interesting because, as you mentioned, that's kind of like what machines do. They eliminate that they eliminate your ability to grab where you're the strongest because it equalizes everything, so it
Yeah.
doesn't allow you to use stabilizing muscles. So you really don't even know, like, you're not benefiting from that, so I would say so. Dorian had pretty good forearms, so I would give him the nod on that.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
do you who do you think historically, like, who would you place? I'd say Dorian had great forearms. Who else would you put up there?
Cutler.
Cutler.
Cutler, man. Yeah. Yeah. That was. I'm just immediately like swiping through the pictures of bodybuilders in my head, Yeah,
Yeah, Cutler. I'm
yeah,
trying
I
to
would say
remember. I'm
Cutler,
trying to
right?
remember if Ronnie had great form, but Ronnie had great everything. So I imagine
Yeah,
he probably did.
I I think honestly, so the guys, obviously, the arms always look better the shorter they are,
Hmm.
as far as density. So I mean, even someone like Flex Lewis, um,
Yes.
it's hard to
Yes.
even tell where his forearm ends and his bicep begins because his limbs are shorter and then just
Yeah.
yeah, just real dense.
For sure. Because yeah, now that you said Flex, picture came up into my mind about his the last
Yeah,
time he won the 212, and it's I mean his forearms are huge. Like it's yeah, that's a
yeah,
good one. That's definitely a good one. So what about like calves? The other part of this, this show was I wanted to kind of focus on
yeah,
calves. Where's your idea on that?
yeah. So calves. So someone will say like, hey, like I have big calves just like my mom or my dad, and
Mhm.
I don't like to train them because I don't want them to get any bigger. And I'm just like, yeah, training your calves isn't what makes them bigger,
Right.
right? It's training your calves is actually to gain control of them and have them get more definition. Your calf is actually two major muscles at work. There's actually three in there, and you can split them up to get that definition that you see on, an athlete or a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
But just saying, oh well, my calves are big, so no, I don't need to train them is pretty ridiculous,
Right.
So I think everybody should train calves, and I think they don't get as much love in most routines as they should. Um, Probably what you see is go do raises 3 sets of 10, or
Mhm.
a sometime after your squats or your leg extensions, you know, go do some raises on that machine over there, and
Yeah.
5 minutes later you're done.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you can really get a lot of work done, even by doing feet straight out in single in straight, right?
Mhm.
Taking your shoes off. I see shoes actually work against you a lot of the time when training your calves too. So taking your shoes off will help you get a deeper flex and stretch when you're on the machine, or even just holding weight and on the edge of a plate or on the edge of a stair.
Right.
So I just think in general they just need to be trained more, and you'll see some results. And it's not about them getting bigger. You're going to see them get more defined, more tight.
Right, right. Yeah, it's calves are an interesting thing. Like you said, they kind of end up taking the place of just kind of like a finishing workout, for legs. Like, oh well, I'll focus everything on squats and stuff like that, and then at the end, like just a one set or two sets of calves, and that'll be it. They don't get the attention that they really deserve but they're so complete. Like they complete your legs. So if you don't have like good
Yeah.
calves, it can really hurt you on stage, but it can also just not look good, So
Yep.
yeah, were you?
That's what I was gonna say.
Mhm.
The calves are in every pose. You
Yeah.
go through all 8 poses, and you look at where the judge's vantage point is. They have to look at your calves in every pose.
Yeah.
Like they're looking kind of up at an angle. It goes calves and then your quads, your hams, and then they're working their way up, right? But
Mhm.
their calves are like right there in their face as they're trying to judge you in all 8 of the poses.
Yeah.
So
It's the first thing they
you
start off with.
definitely,
Yeah.
it's the first thing they start off with. And then on stage, there's no shoes, right?
Mhm.
You don't wear shoes on stage, which is why, especially when I was bodybuilding, I pop my shoes off. I'll do it in my socks or barefoot, all my calf exercises,
Yeah.
because you want that same amount of flexion that you would get as if when you were on stage. You want that you want that feeling like practice for the game, so to speak.
Right, right. Yeah, that's interesting because like if you look back in Arnold's time and that 70s, 80s kind of bodybuilding, a lot of their leg workouts were without shoes. So, there might be something to that. Now, I know that some people might say, well, they didn't have the greatest legs compared to the people that, are competing now. However, I mean, there's
Yeah.
a huge size difference in general. So, the legs are bigger, but everything else is bigger too. So, Arnold's
Right.
day, they're a lot more leaner. They were more of that classic, physique look. So, but yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And definitely, so like you pointed out the different stances. My idea on training calves, and it was an article I read from a guy that was doing some kind of experiment on training. This was so many years ago, I can't even quote it, but basically his idea was, one thing that he mentioned was that when you train calves, you should always train with weights, with heavier than your body. And the thought behind that was that your body is used to, like, you walk, right? Like most people at least walk, some maybe less now than ever before, but in general, people are walking around. So your calves are constantly have that weight, whatever weight you are, on them. So unless you add more weight, doing body exercises doesn't really bring out what you need out of them. Just because your calves are used to that weight, they're not going to change because you're not stimulating them. That was the idea. So I would tend to agree, because anytime I train calves, I always use heavier weight. It doesn't necessarily have to be like extreme, but it should be, you should have something there as a resistance, because like I said, again, you're using that same weight. So if I'm like 245 pounds, well, my calves are getting worked by 245 pounds every time I walk. Now, understandably, there's other muscles involved too, but just as a broad stroke statement. And the other thing that I tend to do is, um, I'll go. So you mentioned the positioning. I'm going to talk about just going up and down. What I'll do is I'll go up, I'll pause there for a few seconds, I'll bring it
Yeah.
even, and then pause, down, pause, and then just kind of that slow restrictive movement, not bouncy. Again, because
Yes.
the reason I don't
Yes.
bounce is because one, there's inertia there. You're there's movement, so you're not really lifting the weight. And then two, it's your calves are used to bouncing. That's when you run and stuff, like that's what they do. They bounce. So it,
Hmm.
I want to kind of change up the movement of the calf to get it stimulated a little more. So
Yeah, you'll get a lot more out of control. Yeah, because you go to the gym, right? You see the guy with the 4 or 5 plates on there. He's got his arms locked in on the machine, and he's, you know, doing one of these, and you're like, "Hey, is that a back workout or
yeah,
like, what's going on here?" So yeah, even those machines that a seated calf raise machine, it has those handles. Those handles are there for you to rack and re-rack the weight, right? Those
right.
handles are not there for you to pull on. So remove your hands from the machine, okay, and then yeah, under control, you can keep a nice, yeah,
Hmm.
because you'll get a lot more out of it from, like you said, stopping the inertia
Right.
than just doing 30 bouncing reps.
Right.
uh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably why a lot of people don't see results when they say, oh, I train my calves, and no real change.
Right. Yeah, and that's interesting. I never thought about those handles as like being a crutch for people, because I don't use them as a crutch. But you're right. Like, when generally speaking, when I was on those machines, my hands would be kind of like on my leg or under my leg. I never really used those hands.
Yes,
But
here.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I could see how someone, even unintentionally, especially if they're putting a significant amount of weight on it, they might use that to kind of like unintentionally pull up with it along with the legs. So it definitely can be a crutch for sure. What
Yeah,
so what
it's like the equivalent of like doing a curl, and then like using
Right,
your
we're
your
using
hand.
your other arm.
Yeah.
Dude, I said we need to do a show about this crazy stuff we see at the gym, because I've seen some
Yes.
crazy stuff. That's a whole
Oh
episode on its own.
yeah.
So what
Wow.
like what do you like the best as far as calf? I guess I was gonna say machines, but just calf exercises. Like if you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
Yeah, so probably the what I like the best is standing. I like standing best before seated, and
Mm.
then I like either holding dumbbells depending on where I'm at in the gym, or if there's the standing machine is near where I'm training, I use the machine. Um, but with that is I seem to get the most because I think the stretch down
Hmm.
is just as important as the flex up.
Yes.
So I get the most out of being able to go all the way down and all the way up uh, than I do when I'm seated or if I'm using any other machine.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and then
Absolutely.
switching it up to single leg too, single one leg at a time is yeah.
Hmm.
That I get a lot of results out of that too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, it's good that you mentioned that as far as going down. I think that's a big issue. I think sometimes people, when they do calves, they don't
Yeah,
put themselves. Yes, they don't put themselves as a position to go under, like the angle under. And so I was talking to my wife, and we were just discussing like training at home and how we don't have those machines at home. If you're training at home, how do you do it? And I mean, and I don't know why my mind didn't go to this, but she immediately said, why don't you just go on a curb, like a curb outside? That gives you everything you need, all the way down, mid, like flat, and then up. It's so simple. But yeah, but you definitely don't want to just only do from the floor up. That's not going to cut it.
yeah. Standing on a flat surface, you can't get the flex that you need to get the whole muscle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Well, I'm trying to think who had the best calves. I feel like the same people that had the best forearms probably have the same calf because they, the people that we're naming are so complete. Like I'm thinking Flex, he
yeah,
got great calves too.
yeah. And there are some guys who notoriously don't have great calves, maybe just because their quad is proportionally just way bigger than their calf.
Yeah.
You know, their, their calf is way bigger than mine, but because of the proportion, it looks small on stage.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like notoriously, I'm thinking of Dennis Wolf. Like Dennis Wolf had very small calves, and it really like marked his physique because he was really good, but but just yeah, you could immediately see, especially on the side poses, you can really see his calves are like deficient. Got it. So
Yeah.
we had a question. I threw up this a couple of weeks ago, and somebody posted about how do you see like definition? How do you get definition of striations in your legs? Like what's the best way to accomplish
Mm.
that? Do you have any ideas on that?
Well, it sounds like the question is as if you could get striations without cutting down altogether, and I don't know that that's possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's sort of like the same question of how do I get six pack abs? It's like, yeah, there is a method to get down not only fat burning, but also what you do with your water.
Mm.
And then they pop, right? And so you'll pop in other areas. You'll pop behind the arm, you'll pop in the back, and you'll show striations in your legs.
Mm.
But to concentrate striations to show in one area, I don't know if that's really something that you can try to do.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
no, I wouldn't say you're wrong. I think a lot of times what happens is when people ask a question like that, it's a matter of two things. One, either not lean enough, so they can't, see their striations, or two, they don't have the muscle development. So they might be, fairly lean, but they just don't have enough muscle to really see what they want to see. So yeah, I think it's a combination of both, but just to concentrate only on striations and only on separation. There are techniques that people use. Right now, I'm not thinking of anything just out top of my head. I might be some of my posts later on about on Instagram, but there are like movements and strategies that people use to really bring them out. But again, like you said, they're more like last minute strategies. Like when someone's already lean and they're just trying to like really just create more of an illusion for, before going on stage for like that's of that separation. But a lot of it has to do with like water manipulation and maybe just like pump up workouts. But by that time
Mm-hmm.
you already have to have the muscle there, and you have to have the low body fat for those things to even come into play.
Yeah. Like one strategy. So aside from what you do with water, right? That's already known. That gets any of your muscles that raise to the surface, and when you pull the water out close to a show. Uh, but when it comes to muscle separation, I think changing the tempo of your workouts as you're doing all your fat burning and dieting and everything else is huge. So like, you can't do every workout at the same like up down up down up down up down up down. Whether it's legs, back, arms, shoulders. There are sometimes you need to do up, down,
Right.
up, down, up, right? So that kind of stuff where you're really maximizing your time under tension, things like that are actually going to help you with muscle separation too, because you'll feel those muscles kick in at different points, right? So yeah, I remember that being one of the most hardest workouts, and actually still today. Whenever I do workouts like that, you have 10-second reps. That stuff. You feel things just start separating. Underneath your skin.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, definitely like changing up your training regimen, your strategy on how you lift, how fast you lift, how slow you lift can cause like differences in your body, because your body gets accustomed to things if you do the same way for a while, so want to make sure that you change things up as you go, for sure. So
tempo is very important.
Yep. All right. Well, that's all I had today, man. I think we did close to an hour. Again, time flies by. So when you're having fun, and especially if you live in Hawaii, I'm sure time really flies by there. Oh man! So what's the plan today?
Jurassic Park. So we're going on a tour of the Jurassic Park.
Oh,
it's like a preserve.
Oh,
where they have,
cool.
like where they shot the movie and stuff. Yeah. So we went there maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, and now that Sammy's kind of old enough to, like I said, look around, put stuff out, have a good time. We're gonna go take a tour. Just this
cool.
afternoon.
Very cool. I didn't even know that it was there. Like it's there in like where you are at, like on your island, or is that some?
Well, where they shot like Jurassic Park. Where they shot like Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. They still have some of the set stuff still from when they were here.
That's awesome. That's that sounds like super cool. Like I would love to go visit there at some time. Maybe they left like a real dinosaur or something like that over there. Maybe you'll find an egg. Like
yeah. Well, I know that they definitely have like some of the bones and some of the set pieces and like walls and things.
That's cool. That's cool, man. You're always doing something cool. I'm envious. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we always try to find something new. And there always is. We haven't.
Yeah, awesome, man. Awesome. Well, hey, man, I won't hold you up. I'll let you go. Fight it out with T-Rexes and stuff, and I'll catch you next week. Okay. All right, brother. Take care.
Okay. All right, man. Always a pleasure.